Okay, so have you ever read a book that was so powerful, so beautifully written, that you were just floored to find out the author wrote it in their second language? Today, we're diving into the incredible world of literary artists who cross linguistic borders to craft masterpieces in an adopted tongue. All right, let's kick things off with a little literary puzzle. I'm about to show you a list of some of the most celebrated names in literature. Your job? Figure out the one surprising thing that connects every single one of them. So we've got Joseph Conrad from Poland, the famous Irishman Samuel Beckett, who actually wrote many of his masterpieces in French. Then there's Vladimir Nabokov from Russia, Julia Alvarez from the Dominican Republic, Ha Jin from China, and Milan Kundera from the Czech Republic. I mean, that's a pretty wide net, right? So what on earth is the common thread? Well, if you guessed that they all became famous writing in a language that wasn't their first, you hit the nail on the head. They are all what we call translingual writers, celebrated for creating these incredible works of art in a language that wasn't their native tongue. Translingualism. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but it opens up this whole new way of looking at literature. So let's really dig into what that actually means. So at its core, we're talking about the creative act of writing in an adopted tongue. It's about authors who either make a clean switch to a new language or, and this is really cool, they weave multiple languages right into their work. But, it's not quite that simple. This isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of label. The experience can look completely different from one writer to the next. So on one hand, you've got someone like Milan Kundera. He made a very deliberate, clean switch from his native Czech to French. But then you have writers like Giannina Broschi, who does something else entirely. She creates this vibrant, electric world right in the space between languages, blending Spanish and English into what people often call Spanglish. Now, you might think this is a pretty modern thing, right? A result of globalization and migration. But, and this is wild, the truth is this practice has roots that go back thousands of years. We're talking about an ancient tradition here. Yeah, it really does seem like as soon as we figured out how to write things down, some people started doing it in a language that wasn't their mother tongue. I mean, just look at this timeline. This goes all the way back to the 23rd century BCE. We're talking about Enheduanna, who happens to be the first poet in history we know by name. She was an Akkadian speaker, but she wrote her poetry in Sumerian. Then you fast forward to antiquity, you see citizens of these huge empires writing in the official languages, like Latin or Greek, no matter what they spoke at home. And of course, that brings us all the way to today, where it's still a huge force in literature. Okay, so we've got that it's ancient, but what about its scale? The sheer scope of this is it's kind of mind-boggling when you stop and think about it. Okay, get this. If we just estimate that there are, say, 5,000 languages spoken in the world, the number of possible two-language combinations for a writer is almost 12.5 million. And that's not even counting the writers to work with 3 or 4 or more languages. The possibilities are, well, they're practically infinite. And yeah, let's be super clear here. This is not just a Western thing. Not at all. Translingual writing is found in literary traditions all across the globe. We're talking about languages from Arabic and Bengali to Tagalog and Xhosa. It is a truly universal human practice. All right, so we've covered what it is, how old it is, how widespread it is, but so what? Why does this matter? What does writing in another tongue really tell us about the connection between our words and our world? Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Do our languages actually shape how we think and feel? Translingual writers are in this totally unique position to explore that. They live right at the intersection of different linguistic worlds, and their work often digs into how different languages give you completely different frameworks for reality. It's almost like they have a key to more than one universe. Take the author Lucia Graves, for example. She's the daughter of the famous poet Robert Graves, and she grew up speaking both English and Catalan in this little village in Majorca. In her memoir, she just perfectly captures this idea of language as a closed world. So she describes how, for her, the English word dead felt like this private, almost quiet sorrow, a dull, personal pain. But the Catalan word mort was something else entirely. It was public, it was communal. She said it was the sound of the village bells tolling, a shared, unmistakable mourning. It's the same reality, right? But two completely different emotional worlds packed into one word. And it's not just about vocabulary. The very structure, the grammar of a language can carry these deep-seated cultural values and attitudes, things like our sense of personal responsibility. There's this fantastic story from the writer Ariel Dorfman. He was in a shop class in Chile, and something he was making broke. He instinctively said, se rompió, which kind of means it broke. Well, his teacher got furious, yelling that in Spanish that's how you escape blame. It's impersonal. He made Dorfman say, yo lo rompí, I broke it, to take personal responsibility. I mean, think about that. Two ways to say the same thing, but with totally different ideas about agency and blame, baked right into the grammar. And this is really the thought I want to leave you with. What translingual writers show us is that languages aren't just tools. They're entire worlds of feeling, of culture, of perspective. So if our language really does shape our reality, what does that mean for someone who builds their life and their art in more than one? Maybe they don't just see the world differently. Maybe they get to live in a bigger world altogether.